Okay.
Talk about briefly your take on there are now two so-called progressive caucuses among the aldermen. So I'd see if we could address that, and also there is some talk about whether anyone could defeat Rahm or whether anyone wants to run in the next election or put it off until 2 times down the line. Your take on those two issues?
Well, the two progressive caucuses, without taking anything away from those who split off into the, it reminds me of in the old days of the split, because of the split in STS.
I remember those days.
You've got a core of 10 true progressive independents in that city council, and roughly another, that's about 10 each, of people who have been independent and often good aldermen, but they have chosen to throw their lot with the mayor rather than stand critically apart from the mayor. It's unfortunate. My own alderman, Michelle Smith, who we worked very hard to get elected, split off and became part of the let's just call it the
Douglas,
the Rahm Progressive
Rahm
Caucus.
Progressives.
And the alderman of the community we're in right now, Joe, I find very disappointing. But there was a tip-off to what was happening with Joe when
talking about our alderman Joe Moore.
Joe Moore, yes, of 49th Ward. About a year ago, or a little less, he threw the switch and through hyper technicality prevented a non-binding referendum on an elected school board. Got it thrown off the ballot. That's because Rahm did not want that on the ballot, and that's because he knew it would win. In the few neighborhoods where they were able to get it locally on the ballot, it won overwhelmingly. My guess is, had it been on the Chicago ballot, it would have gotten 60–65%. Now, Rahm doesn't want to see that, and Joe helped Rahm not see it.
I bet if we put it on the ballot in 49th Ward, it would win.
Yep. I think there are people talking about trying to get it on the ballot.
Oh yeah, there are.
It's not a panacea, but compared to this failed experiment of mayoral control of the schools, which Richie M. Daley was part of, which Bloomberg was a part of, which Fenty in Washington was a part of. This is a failed experiment, and people are looking failure in the face and saying, isn't it successful? They point to 6 charter schools that are performing well and forgetting about the 30 at the bottom. And they still want to do it because it is the triumph of technocracy over education. Education is hard. And it takes a long time, and these mayors are all looking for quick fixes, and this is the quickest fix, whether they rig the test or not. Just to go back to these tests, I know we want to talk about other aspects, but I think Rahm's greatest failure is in the whole school area, and he's not ready to admit it yet. He wants to be a leader. He ought to go back and listen to people like Mike Klonsky again and think about small schools, which work.
Right.
They've worked all over the country.
Well, of course, we've had Mike and Fred Klonsky both on this show many times.
I'm going to move on to the mayor, but I want to let everyone know that they are listening to the Live from the Heartland show. Some of you may have an opportunity to watch this either on youtube.com/heartlandmedia or sometime on CAN TV. And we're here talking with Don Rose. We're going to have Jeff Epton up in a little bit to join us. And I would like to talk a little bit about the mayor and the possible opposition to the mayor in the next mayoral race. And one of the things that I'm sure will be crucial to that, if anyone takes him on, is the black vote. And the school issue plays right into that. And a little sub note here is I noticed that there were a number of black business people who came out in support of the school closing. So in talking about the mayor, let's get a sense of how you think the black community is going to move on this.
Well, I think if you took a poll of the black community right now, you would find in the heat of these school closings, which nobody's happy about, in either the black or Latino communities where their neighborhoods are being demolished, that you would find significant opposition to the mayor and what he's doing. The one ace in the hole he still has with the African American community is that Barack Obama will still come and endorse him, because what he is doing in the schools is following the Barack Obama, Arnie Duncan path to education. So we're kind of trapped here. You know, this school problem is not a right-wing plot. It comes out of the so-called liberal movement. It started with Bill Clinton.
Wow.
So I think there could be a significant breakaway from Emmanuel in the African American community and the Latino community. If we could find somebody
I see it less in the Latino community.
What?
I see it less in the Latino community.
Well, their neighborhoods are being torn up too, but yeah, of course it is less. Latinos have always leaned with incumbency.
Right.
You know, going way back to when I was doing the Jane Byrne campaign, Jane won the black community overwhelmingly, but lost the Latino community. Fortunately, she won enough whites so that you know, we turned Bolandic out. But
we liked her then.
We liked her then. It seemed like a good idea.
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move. What about the taking on the mayor?
All right,
go ahead.
I don't see anyone at the moment who can put it together. The only two public figures, I think, who had any kind of shot, one would be Toni Preckwinkle, who could make that run without losing her county board presidency, because it's an off-year election. If she could put together the minority communities and women who may or may not be fed up with Rahm by now, at least some of them will be, and the reform community,
and the
what we used to call, and all those unions that opposed Rahm in the first place. You'd have a stronger person there, because I think she's on pretty good paper with most of the unions. But this is a hypothetical. The other public figure we know who might be interested is Tom Dart.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if he could consolidate. There was a time he could have consolidated some black votes because of his wonderful work with the cemetery.
That's right.
But I think his time may be past.
Really?
Yeah. One person we know could just steamroll him, but I don't think she wants to do it, and that's Lisa Madigan.
Right.
I think she's got her eye set on the governorship. I don't know why. It's probably the worst job in the country at the moment.
Really?
But she is the only person who I could say right now could knock Rahm over without a whole lot of effort.
Because I just saw it this morning briefly, speaking of unions in the city, did you see that the O'Hare janitors have chosen...
Yes, they went with the Teamsters.
They went with the Teamsters.
Which is the only Rahm union.
The Rahm union at the airport, as opposed to SEIU.
I think that was the whole idea of that entire turnover.
So
there's always a long-term plot, and we've got to remember that the airport itself has sort of the last vestige of big-time, old-time patronage, whether it's patronage through pet unions or patronage of various other kinds.
Yeah.
So you knew there was something going on when they pulled that first stunt by hiring a non-union firm.
I know exactly that. Yeah, I'm really beyond upset at the notice that Obama is looking at lowering or taking some Social Security.
This is a terrible idea. The two terrible ideas that are being floated, that have been floated, one was raising the age to 67, which is devastating, and now this so-called chained CPI, which is it's chaining, all right, but it's cutting more people into slavery. If it's not well understood, basically what it does is reduce the cost of living increase that Social Security,
which is not much, I'll tell you, as a Social Security guy.
I'm on it myself. Fortunately, I can afford it, but what it's going to do is damage the poor elderly. Over the next 10 years, it's going to cost them at least $650 a year that they can ill afford. When you're trying to live on $15,000 a year,
right, and
inflation is moving it up to where in 10 years we should be, let us say hypothetically, up to $18,000 a year. Instead, they're cutting it back.
It's incredible. It's just incredible.
It's one of Barack's worst ideas.
He ran on promising not to.
Now let me ask this. Why do you think he's doing this, and do you think there will be any Democrats who will stand up and make it so that it doesn't happen?
I don't know if any Democrats will stand up and filibuster it, but I think there's a number of people who are prepared to stand up and speak very vigorously against it. I saw Bernie Sanders on Bill Maher's show last night.
I wish I got that. Was he great?
And yeah, they brought that up. It's a terrible idea. I'm sure there's a half a dozen senators who are going to speak out against it. They don't have to tamper with Social Security. There's a very easy Social Security fix, and that is to raise the maximum at which one pays Social Security. Right now, you pay Social Security on earnings up to $105,000 a year. If they moved it up to where that number should be, because it's been held back for so many years, they would move it up close to $200,000 a year, and that would fix at least 30%, if not more, of the problem. In addition, it would help pump more money into the economy, and the more money that goes into the economy, the more people are paying more Social Security. So it has a multiplier effect.
Right.
We know it'll create, as I say, 30% of the drop. Further employment is really the long-term key to it.
Yeah.
But Social Security is not our problem. We have problems with Medicaid that are genuine. We probably have problems with Medicare, unfortunately. And a lot of people hate the idea, but it seems to me that the only sort of long-term fix on Medicare is going to be to make it income dependent to a greater degree than it is. And these entitlements were never supposed to be income dependent. They were what you've earned, but if there's a fix that becomes livable, I suspect it's going to be that. With my personal I have a pension that I created. I've been in my own business, but many people are living on 401ks and other kind of pensions. So with my pension, I could afford to pay a little more money for Social Security. And there's people a lot wealthier than, I'm sorry, for my Medicare funding. There's other things they could do. You know, the Part D Medicare, which is the prescription plan for older people.
Right.
People are not allowed. That function cannot bargain with the drug companies to lower prices the way things like the Veterans Administration can. Now that's pure madness. They can move in that direction. There's lots of ways to move without penalizing the poorest, the oldest and the poorest among us.
Yeah.
Going to shift gears here again.
I knew you were.
Well, it's that time, and
Yes.
we're going to talk. I want to talk a little bit about prisons. I did see a show on public TV the other day, and they talked about overcrowding in the prisons, and it occurred to me that not only do an awful lot of people who go to prison not get a really good head start, so to speak, in terms of education, neighborhood, parents' jobs, whatever. They just, they're starting at the bottom. They end up in prison, and in prison there's no more rehabilitation. It's just, lots of people locked up, and they come out and they don't have any help. It just seems that we were doomed, that we have a system that creates people who are poor, who turn to the other side of the law, even if it's small matters, and then are just jinxed for life.
Well, prisons are the best crime schools in the country.
Yeah.
That's where you learn, and that's where if we had genuine rehabilitation, the recidivists are the largest